If I had to amputate my own toes with dull scissors, it'd be easier and quicker than to explain Egosoft's latest placenta-dripping offspring, the X4. Right, so this is the second version for the script, as the first one went for so long I think I was having a verbal diarrhea. And let's be honest, if I myself don't like my own voice, who would? Especially for that long. So I'll just go over the immediate things that I liked and disliked. After all, this is not a review, so I have no obligations. Yay, zero accountability! Anyways though, before I start I must mention that I did receive a review copy, as well as a few answers about the game from Egosoft, and I appreciate this way more than you think. No, not the codes. The answers. Seriously, I'm really starting to like these guys. So here we go. Technical-wise, the game is on PC only and has no VR version. At least for now. Anyways, as I started the game, I was greeted by a little cutscene telling me that I could do anything in the game I wanted. So immediately I realized that there wouldn't be any tutorials or hand-holding or explanations or introductions. Anything for a completely fresh player for the series or the game type itself, it's always a good sign, isn't it? And so just like an afterbirth dripping newborn zebra, I was shut out for the approaching predator to devour. And I exploded upon shooting the station. Granted, I knew what would happen, it was more like a consensual suicide. But I was testing things, damn it. That aside, I was greeted by the first-person character controls and a dinky little ship that I immediately proceeded to walk around and touching from every inappropriate angle, unlike that one other space sim game. And it had acceptable frame rates, unlike that one other space sim facsimile. And everything also wasn't as bleedingly oversaturated like that third space sim game either. Basically, I saw that X4 was able to do things that the other ones failed to do, but on the other hand, there were some things that the other games did a lot better than X4 does. So in a way, it's a mixed bag. Though if we talk about the space sim genre, what seems to be the big focal point these days, the ships, no, they have no internal layout in X4. All they have is the outside model and a cockpit, or bridge. That's it. Still, if this means that the game actually comes out and devs don't spend days fucking each other on the fanciest office desks and calling it quote-unquote modeling the internal layout, I'll accept the simplified ship design. Still, the ship and station design is actually pretty neat, being developed to a relatively high degree, and I would also include the asteroid fields here too. Oh god, the asteroid fields, they're like the cough medicine for space games. But if we're talking about the visuals, then the most apparent thing here is the question, what year is this? Seriously, the moment I picked up the game, I was constantly looking at the calendar to make sure that it's not 2003. That's how bad the graphical design is. You can even make your mama so old jokes, but instead use this game as the punchline. Yes, the models are nice, but the lighting, effects, textures, and all the little details just either are not there or so bad that the game feels like senior citizen competing with steroid shooting 20-year-olds in deadlift competition. Still, the game itself is running on Egosoft's own made engine, and I quote, "We call it the X4 engine." Great in naming, right? And it is an inherent part of the game. It uses Vulkan as the graphics API exclusively, and once more I quote Brent on why they chose this API specifically. Platform independence and the fact that it allows more direct access to the hardware than higher level alternatives. Though the unfortunate thing here is, for the way graphics look, the frames are awfully low, to be frank. Since I only know DirectX and OpenGL, even then at a mediocre degree, I can't really comment as to where to look for performance improvements, but I'm guessing UI would be a good place to start. Right, so, well, this is gonna be an interesting side note. So, as I'm filming, well, my filming tool, DxStory, is showing me that there is GPU bottlenecking. I opened the task manager, and what I'm seeing on every possible measuring instrument there, that, well, the GPU is not being really bottlenecked. It's working at around 30% usage. My CPU, Threadripper, is working at around 20%, and yeah, I'm just wondering, the fuck? I mean, yeah, you don't need to utilize the 100%, but 30%, are you overusing some sort of a ASIC on it? Like, I don't know, graphics thing or what? Still, if the graphics are sacrificed like a poor lamb on a black metal Satan altar, then there must be a bigger focus on functionality of the game. And yes, the gameplay has some nifty things, like trade, NPC ordering, and much more, but my favorite is exploration, or at least that's what I call exploration, which is finding new jump gates and traveling on the highway to discover new parts of the relatively small map, but still, nice playground nevertheless. Thing is, I like the map in X4. I don't miss the procedurally generated garbage that a lot of known space sims seem to be so eager of plastering all over the place, like diseased wank rags. There is beauty and fun in handcrafted stuff to me than in distant and cold RNGs smacking me upside the head with his trusty pimp cane. So yeah, I really like finding new hexagons just for the sheer fun of it. Call me crazy, though level design seems really weird. See, space games are in space, and space is very vast, and there's also 3 dimensions, yet the map is 2-dimensional. Also, the actual station placement is 2-dimensional. Yes, most stations and objects will be sitting on the same plane. It just simply feels like a wasted opportunity to make something interesting in the galaxy, when everything is always upright. Though crazy is what I would call Egosoft for the biggest sin of all sins in this game. The horrible leprosy-infected UI that seems to be carved out with jackhammer and blood of the 1,000 desecrated artists' grave juices. The about-to-be roasted anal remains of this UI, I don't think could be even classified as user interface. My god, what is this mess? Because of the graphical budget, or creative cuts, and many other things, X4 just feels like a game developed only and only by coders. How do I know this? Well, when I used to make some prototype games or tests, this is how UI would look. The fact that to hire an NPC in the first place, you need to click on hire, then you have the map pop up and nothing is simplified or explained. You just need to guess what to do next, or end up quitting the hiring process and the asshole can fuck right off. The fact that NPC controls are horribly unintuitive and everything else seems to be just thrown about half-sorted. How do I know that UI was not made by a real UI designer? Well, the top left of the screen is where the most action happens, and the bottom right is basically a wasteland. See, not only the placement of the buttons, but also the looks and simplicity of these controls have to be on point. Even EVE Online, that I consider a far more superior game, still fails in some of the UI parts, but at least it's almost there. X4, on the other hand, just no. Holy baby Jesus on fire, this is so bad! It could only get worse if you put RGB rainbow effects everywhere, so that the UI would resemble the crowning jewel of the internet cancer, otherwise known as MySpace. But the grand achievement of the complete and utter precision and knowledge for this game came when I clicked on tutorials. Oh my impaled Satan's ballsack, what the fuck is this? Who? What? How is this even possible? I've seen asset flip garbage with better tutorials. In fact, no tutorial would be better. And especially for Germans, this is absolutely unacceptable. What a good tutorial does, in best case, has a voiceover and text on screen, and with maybe some objective list explaining you one thing at a time and moving on once you've performed a certain action while reminding you how to do it. What X4 does is put on some shitty ass, not even center text aligned text boxes on your screen that are super easy to miss if you don't look, explaining nothing and having most of them on a fucking timer. So, if you miss the crucial action that needs doing, guess fucking what? Go fuck right off or restart the tutorial. Worst of all, instead of putting information about the game's features like building and other things in-game, on the game's release, the official Twitter had to post links to the game's FAQ online. This is fucking sad. Has the modern game industry forgotten what a good or even decent tutorial looks like, or am I asking too much? To put it simply, because X4 and other space sims are quite complex, you have to spend that extra effort in making a tutorial, like what EVE did. They made an absolutely wonderful intro tutorial, plus a few other things, but it too lacks here and there. X4, guys, devs, I like you. You actually responded to my questions about the game and didn't put on the PR filter. For that, I love you. But for fuck's sakes, tutorials are an embarrassment. Well, now that I got that out of my system, the best thing about X4 is the economy. Yes, this is what the developers had worked on so much, and it shows. The game map, or the galaxy itself, hosts quite the unparalleled economy. Aside from EVE Online, you can amass a massive force of mining ships, and they will eventually drive down the price of whatever commodity you tell them to mine, and the same thing goes with trading. I would even extend the whole micromanaging and small little details as the best part about the game. You can board ships and steal them, same with cargo, though most actions will happen through layers upon layers of menus, not actual gameplay, so that's one negative there. Still, much like other space sims, X4 has a huge depth in its gameplay, and it will take you literal years to figure out, most likely at least, considering the tutorials and FAQ are minimal. One thing I really enjoyed because of this gameplay depth was basically sitting there in the starport somewhere and just playing the game as an RTS. Indeed, you can just do that. So in a way, X4 is 2 games into 1. Still, the last big issue I had with the game was the empty feeling of nothingness whenever I decided to pick up my own ship and actually go and fly it. The sound design in X4 is bare minimum. Be prepared. The collisions, flying, thrusting sound effects, everything is so simple and easy to miss that sometimes you'll feel that there is no sound at all. Mind you, I went out of my way to actually play without music to hear the sound effects, and I still had issues hearing these things, or things happening to my ship or myself. And actually, here's a horrible thing about X4 too. The visual effects and sound are heavily underused to signal the player as to what is happening in general. A great example of this would be the long-range scanner. As you activate it, the ship UI changes the color in the windows. That I really like. Seriously, it's a great way to visually indicate things. But the scanning itself has no visual indication on how much the thing has spooled up, and telling that from the sound itself? Yeah, good luck with that. It really feels counterintuitive. As a matter of fact, this is not the only instance where visuals and sound could and should be used for the gameplay benefit, but simply are not. So, overall, the game is likable if you get past the horrible UI design and the learning curve. A big issue even for the better games in this niche of the space simulation. For all its flaws, I'm somehow drawn to it. Maybe it's the fact that it's a real game. Maybe because the developers are actually pretty cool themselves. Maybe it's the broken aspects of the game that are rather hilarious, not frustrating. Like the near non-existent collisions. Quality and precision German collisions right there! But I actually like the game in its core. If you like EVE Online, trading, or just space sims, I guess it's worth the asking price of 50 euros, but if you are willing to try out the space sims for the first time with no prior experience, I definitely go with something else. X4 will get updates, and developers actually are upfront and honest about things that suck, which I absolutely love. And that's why I'll be keeping an eye out for what is to come for this particular take on the spacey, tradey, shooty, explory game. Alrighty then, let's see. The fuck? Yep, that's quality Vulcan right there, right? Oh, a pop-in too. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I guess that's one way of entering the station. Through the wall. Quality NPC German coding. Okay, yeah, well, this is an interesting little side note that I kinda noticed. The reflections actually are, well, in some way a bit more advanced than normal games, and in some ways a lot less advanced than in some other games, notably being the quality. But as you take a look at the reflection real quick, as you see the character moving, you will see, first of all, the actual world moving in the reflection as well, which does happen in many other games as well, but oftentimes the dynamic elements, i.e. NPCs and other things, don't get included. And yet, in this one it does, as you can take a look at it. But in a really weird way.